to see about the class of mechanism of respiration. When we are going to see about mechanism of respiration, it includes the respiratory system. Respiratory system includes what are the parts that is involved in the mechanism of respiration. Means we should know about the respiratory system parts, which starts from the nasal cavity, nose, mouth, larynx, and throat, esophagus, trachea, right lung and left lung and bronchi, and also the diaphragm, which is involved in the process of respiration during the inspiration and expiration mechanism. And what is mechanics of respiration? Mechanism of respiration involves the breathing mechanism and exchange of gases, which is include the gaseous exchange occurs by diffusion in the alveoli. It depends upon the pressure differences between blood and tissue, or atmospheric air and blood. What it say means mechanism of respiration means it is a mechanism of breathing, which includes exchange of gases and inspiration and expiration. The exchange of gases takes place at the part called alveolus, where the gases exchanges takes place. And mechanism of breathing. Mechanism of breathing means it involves the two mechanisms, that is inspiration and expiration. The air which we breathe in and out of the lung varies in its pressure. So basically, when there is a fall in air pressure, the alveolar spaces falls and the air enters the lungs. That is called inspiration. And as the pressure of the alveoli within exceeds the atmospheric pressure, the air is blown from the lungs, and which is known as expiration. The flow rate of the air is in proportion to the magnitude of the pressure difference, which is proportion to the magnitude of the pressure. Respiration includes exhalation and inhalation. Exhalation in the sense what we are exhaling, and inhalation in the sense what we are taking in. Breathing in is known as inhalation. What are the part that involves in the exhalation and inhalation in the means lung, ribs and diaphragm. Inspiration. The inspiration process means the process of intake of atmospheric air is known as inspiration. Inspiration is nothing but the process of how we are taking the breath inside is known as inspiration. In the process of inspiration, there would be a contraction of muscles attached to the ribs and outside of the ribs, which results in the expansion of the chest cavity. Later, the diaphragm contracts, moves downwards and expands the chest cavity, resulting in the contraction of the abdominal muscles. And mechanism of inspiration includes when the volume of the thoracic cavity increases and also the air pressure decreases. Before itself we say it is proportionate to the air pressure. That is called thoracic cavity. When there is a thoracic cavity, volume increases and the air pressure decreases during the inspiration. And the contraction of the external intercostal muscle increases, the volume of the thoracic cavity decreases, and the contraction of the diaphragm increases, the size of the thoracic cavity will be expanded. With the expansion of the lungs, the air pressure inside the lungs decreases. And about the inhalation, what are all the muscles that involved in the mechanism of respiration means it involves the muscles like internal intercostal muscle, external intercostal muscle, diaphragm, rib cage and thoracic cavity. During the inhalation, what are all the process that includes in the inhalation? Internal intercostal muscle relaxed. Due to internal intercostal muscle relaxation, the external intercostal muscle contraction occurs. After the external intercostal muscle contraction, the rib cage moves upwards and outwards. After the upwards-outwards movements, the diaphragm contracts and flattens. Due to contraction of diaphragm, the volume of the thorax cavity increases. So it is in proportionate. So due to increased volume of thorax cavity, the pressure in alveoli decreases and the air moves in. The air moves in is called inhalation. And expiration. The process of exhaling carbon dioxide is called expiration. The inhaling of oxygen is known as inspiration, and exhaling of carbon dioxide is known as expiration, where it is called a passive process, and in inspiration it is called as active process because it is inhaled and it is exhaled. The expiration process is considered once after the gaseous exchange occurs in the lungs and the air is expelled out. During this process, what are all the muscle movement occurs? Muscles attached to the rib contract and the muscles of the diaphragm and the abdomen relax, which leads to a decrease in the volume of the chest cavity. Decrease in the volume of the chest cavity leads to the increase in the pressure of the lungs. Due to after increased pressure of the lungs, the air is exhaled through the nose, and it occurs when the size of the thoracic cavity decreases and the air pressure outside increases. Now the external intercostal muscle relaxes and the internal intercostal muscle contracts. As a result, the ribs are pulled inwards and the size of the thoracic cavity is reduced. And the diaphragm is relaxed and the lungs get compressed. When there is a diaphragm relaxation occurs, the lungs get compressed due to the diaphragm is present at the site, and consequently the pressure increases and the air is forced outside. This is the mechanism of expiration. And in an exhalation, the same about where we see inhalation, it is in proportionate to exhalation, where the ear internal intercostal muscle contract, external intercostal muscle relaxed. Due to internal intercostal muscle contraction and relaxation of the external intercostal muscle, the rib cage moves downwards and inwards. Where the rib cage moves inwards and outwards in inhalation, here the rib cage moves downwards and inwards. So the diaphragm relaxes, volume of the thoracic cavity decreases. Here the volume of the thoracic cavity decreases, and in inhalation the volume of the thoracic cavity is increases. Due to the volume of the thoracic cavity decreases, the alveolar pressure will be increased. Due to pressure in the alveoli, the air moves out. It is the process of exhalation. Exchange of gases. Already I have said about the exchange of gases takes place in the part of alveoli, and the gaseous exchange occurs by diffusion in the alveoli. Diffusion in the sense where the movement occurs from the downhill movement, where the concentration of where the concentration is downhill movements, and it is an passive transport. It depends upon the pressure differences between blood and tissues, or atmospheric air and blood. The exchange of gases takes place. What are the manner the exchange of gases takes place? The exchange of gases takes place in the following manner. First of all, the transport of oxygen and internal respiration occurs, and transport of carbon dioxide from tissues to lungs. Intrapleural breathing. Intrapleural in the sense pleural is it is a pleura is a outer covering of the lungs. Intrapleural in the sense the space between the lung and the outer layer is known as intrapleural space, and pleural space. So it is known as intrapleural breathing. And respiratory gas transport. Transport of oxygen, it is carried out to the tissues in two forms, that is oxyhemoglobin and internal respiration. That is oxyhemoglobin in the sense chemical combination of or composition of, in the name itself it says oxy in the sense oxygen, and hemoglobin is hemoglobin, and solution of oxygen in the blood plasma. The oxygen in the blood combines with hemoglobin when the concentration of oxygen is high in the blood. So oxyhemoglobin being unstable, it dissociates to release oxygen. Low oxygen leads to low pH, and low pH leads to high temperatures. So it stimulates the dissociation process. This is the transportation of oxygen. Then what is meant by internal respiration? The gaseous exchange taking place in the tissues is called internal respiration, where the oxygen carried on the form of oxyhemoglobin, which is dissociated to release oxygen. Then the oxygen breaks down and the glucose to release carbon dioxide, water and energy. The energy is utilized by the body and the carbon dioxide is diffused from the tissues. And transport of carbon dioxide from tissues to lungs. Carbon dioxide is transported by three mechanisms. Some carbon dioxide dissolves in the water of plasma to form carbonic acid, and carbonic acid ionizes to form bicarbonate ions. Then some carbon dioxide combines with the hemoglobin for the formation of carbaminohemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin is combination or composition of oxygen and hemoglobin. And here the carbaminohemoglobin is the formation of carbon dioxide and hemoglobin combination. It is finally carried to the lungs and released out of the body through expiration, that is exhalation. Intrapleural breathing. Intrapleural breathing is used to refer to the pressure that is present in the space between the pleura and the lungs. This space referred to as pleural cavity. The space between the pleura and the lungs is known as pleural cavity, where the atmospheric pressure, the pleural pressure is termed as negative pressure. The lung movement is governed by the pressure gradient, the transpulmonary pressure which exists between the pleura and the lungs. The difference in the pressures between the intrapulmonary and intrapleural pressure is known as transpulmonary pressure. Nothing but it is the difference in the pressures which is between intrapulmonary, that is the space between pulmonary arteries and the intrapleural pressure, the space between the pleura and the lungs. It is known as intrapulmonary and intrapleural pressure, which is known as together known as transpulmonary pressure. And intrapleural breathing, the pressure in the pleural cavity while breathing turns negative. It is called negative pressure, while there is an increase in the transpulmonary pressure causing the lungs to expand. While expiration, the lungs recoil as a result of an increase in the pleural pressure. The competing forces inside the thorax results in the formation of negative intrapleural space. One of these forces is associated with the lungs' elasticity. The lungs have elastic tissues which cause it to be pulled inwards and off of thoracic wall. Respiratory gas transport. After the gases are scattered in the lungs, causing the blood to become oxygenated, leaving carbon dioxide. The next phase of transportation of oxygen-rich blood to the tissues takes place. Meanwhile, the next round of deoxygenated blood needs to be brought to the lungs for the cycle to continue. Where in the bloodstream, the transportation of gases occurs all throughout the body, which is contributed to the cardiovascular system and comprising of blood vessels and the heart. The blood which is carried by the heart, and oxygen leaves the lungs to flow into the heart and through the pulmonary veins, which are connected to the rest of the body, from the left ventricle through the aorta and its corresponding branches. These are the mechanism which involves in the respiration. What are all the mechanism we have seen? Means we have seen inhalation, what is exhalation, what is inspiration, and what is expiration, and what about internal respiration, and about intrapleural breathing, and also transport of oxygen, transport of carbon dioxide, and what is meant by oxyhemoglobin, and what is meant by carbaminohemoglobin, and also we have seen about the respiratory gas transport. These are the mechanisms that involved in the respiration. Thank you.